One of the stories in the Bible talks about how God took care of one of his special helpers. This helper's name was Elijah, and Elijah lived in the land of Israel. Now at the time when Elijah lived, God's people had forgotten about him, and they were worshiping idols, an idol called Baal. And God told Elijah that he needed to go and tell the king a very important message. So Elijah went and stood before the king of Israel, King Ahab, and he said, "This is what the Lord says. There will be no dew and no rain for 3 years until the people of Israel turn away from worshiping idols." Then God told Elijah to go quickly away to hide himself because the king was very, very angry and sent his soldiers to take Elijah away. God told Elijah to go hide himself by the brook Cherith, and he could drink the water from the brook, and every day God sent ravens to bring him some food. So Elijah lived there for quite some time until the water of the brook dried up, and there was nothing for Elijah to drink. So God told Elijah, "I want you to go to the city of Zarephath, and just outside the gate you will find a widow." Now a widow is somebody whose husband has died, and she was going to be there at the city gate picking up some sticks, and Elijah was going to ask her for something to eat. And it happened just the way God said. As Elijah approached the city of Zarephath, there was a widow, and she was picking up some sticks to make a fire. And Elijah approached her and he said, "Please, may I have a drink of water?" And before she had gone to get something, he said, "And please, would you bring me a little bread too?" She said, "I'm picking up some sticks to bake the last loaf of bread for my son and myself, and then we won't have any more to eat and we will die." But Elijah said to her, "Don't be afraid. God has said that there will be plenty for us to eat. Go make me a little bit first, and then you'll have some to make for your boy and yourself too." So the woman went, and she took her oil and she poured it in her dish, and the jug was empty. And she took her flour barrel and she dumped it in the dish, and the flour barrel was empty. And she stirred it around and made a little piece of bread for Prophet Elijah, and she baked it over the fire. And when she was finished, Elijah had something to eat, and he said, "Okay, now go and make something for your boy and yourself." And she looked, and there was more oil in her jug, and she poured it into the bowl. And she looked in her flour barrel, and there was more flour, and she poured it into the bowl, and she mixed up some more bread so that she and her boy could have something to eat too. And God sent water in the well, so every day Prophet Elijah, the widow, and the boy had plenty to eat, and they had water to drink. After 3 years of famine, God told Elijah to go back to the land of Israel and to talk to the king. So that's what Elijah did. He said goodbye to the widow and to her son, and away he went. When the king saw Elijah, he frowned and he said, "Is it you, you troubler of Israel?" And Elijah said, "I'm not the one who has troubled Israel. You have, because you have turned away from God. I need you to call all the people of Israel together on the top of Mount Carmel, and we will see who is the true God." So the king did as Elijah said, and he gathered everybody together on the top of Mount Carmel. All the people of Israel came to the top of Mount Carmel as Elijah said. The prophets of Baal were there, and the king was there, and his soldiers were there. And Elijah said, let's build 2 altars, one to the Lord and one to Baal. And we're going to put wood and offering on top of those altars. And the God who answers by fire is the true God. And the people said, that sounds like a good way to tell. So they built their altars, they put wood on, and Elijah told the prophets of Baal, you go first. So the prophets of Baal began leaping and jumping and dancing around the altars, calling on Baal, please come bring us some fire. But Baal didn't answer. And all day long, they were crying and leaping and jumping. They would even get knives and cut themselves. They were trying so hard to get fire, but nothing happened all day long. After the altar was ready, Elijah called for some water, and they brought it in a big jug. And he said, okay, pour it over the altar. And they did. And he said, okay, do it again. And they did. Again and again, 12 jugs of water were poured over that altar. Now, water doesn't burn, and wet wood has a hard time burning. Elijah wanted to show that he didn't do anything to start that fire, and if God sent it, it would be a miracle. Finally, when it was evening, Elijah went over to the altar of the Lord, and he knelt down by that altar and he said, dear God, please show these people that you are the true God. And almost before Elijah was done praying, fire came down from heaven like lightning, and it burned up the wood, it burned up the offering, it burned up even the stones of the altar, it burned the water in the ditch. All the people looked and they said, the Lord is God. And God heard them, and he was very pleased. And that night, God sent a big rain to water the earth. Our memory verse is taken from Isaiah chapter 33, verse 16. It says, bread will be given him, his water will be sure. You can take a minute now and say that to your mom or dad. Isaiah 33:16. Bread will be given him, his water will be sure.